Could rest be what the Auburn Tigers need to turn things around?
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first or second listen every single day. This is a bonus edition of the show. Ben Taylor of Auburn Opelika this morning, hanging out with us. He hosts the morning show on News Talk WANI, part of the Auburn Network family of stations. Who should Auburn play in this week's SEC tournament? Where is the pressure? Is it all on Auburn, or does it actually not matter at all? The beauty of this, Ben, and we were talking before we clicked record, is like I don't think anybody benefits in the conference more from a few days off than the Auburn Tigers. I think both mentally and physically, and we'll see pretty quickly against probably Ole Miss, but either Ole Miss or Arkansas on Friday at noon when Auburn plays, if that's actually true or not.
So you're not giving South Carolina an opportunity to make it whatsoever?
So I've done that. I've done like 5 shows on this. And every time I do a show and I'm like, or South Carolina, it gets shut down so quickly. I'm fine giving South Carolina a shot. Sure. I'm
fine giving them a shot. They could be what Auburn was during Bruce's, was it first or second year?
Okay, hold on. hold on.
They played.
I don't know about that.
They played everybody close.
True.
So tournament play usually benefits a team that has been in it throughout the season,
right?
But they still haven't found a way to win. So, I mean, there is that. I'm not going to completely shut you down if you say South Carolina. However, I think you're right. I think it's probably going to be Ole Miss because, and honestly, you hope it's either South Carolina or Arkansas if you're Auburn, because they got to play 2 games to get to you. So 2 games, 2 days in a row, you get some wobbly legs by that point.
Yeah, it's weird because in the setting of the SEC tournament and the seeding, I agree with you. If it's in a vacuum and it's just, a normal game, I think I would rather play Ole Miss. I just think the matchups favor Auburn more.
Completely agree.
Than they do against Arkansas. But that's not, we're talking about something different. So yeah, if Arkansas were to advance to Friday, it would be their 3rd game in 3 days. And they play at noon the day before. So, I mean, that's less than, 24 hours of rest to turn around and play the Auburn Tigers. So I think I'm there with you. But I do think Ole Miss is the most likely, then Arkansas, then of course South Carolina.
And let me just say, it's not just Auburn that needs a rest. I think that everybody that got the double bye, I think that there's been a lot of pressure here at the end of the season, either to finish at that top spot like Auburn did, even though everybody's thinking about losses, they still finished at the top spot. But still, Alabama needed an emotional win against Auburn, and they needed that because they lost 2 in a row.
That's right.
So, Florida also getting everybody's best at the end. So I think everybody that got the double bye needs the rest that they're going to receive this week.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I agree with that. So as far as Auburn's chances in the SEC tournament, according to our friends at FanDuel, they are the betting favorite to win the SEC tournament. Of
course.
And I don't know if I entirely agree with that. They definitely have the best path. Because Florida has to play Alabama, and I think Auburn having to play Tennessee is a much easier opponent. Not easy, but easier than Alabama or Florida. So I think it's one of, I mean, in an ideal world, the 1 seed should have the easiest path because that's what they've earned in the regular season. But it doesn't normally work that way. I think it actually did this time, which is good for Auburn.
No, and nothing against Tennessee. This makes it sound like we're kind of poo-pooing on Tennessee, and we're totally not. It's just that I think that the 3 best teams in the Southeastern Conference right now are Auburn, Alabama, and Florida. And this is that point, too, when you look at that.
Sorry to cut you off, Ben, but I agree. I think it's those 3, and I don't care what order you put them in. And then I think there is a gap. There's a space before you get to everybody else.
And I will say what Kevin Skarbinski has said. There have been other writers, like state writers as well as national writers, that have said this. I forgot what talking head it was that said, hey, the toughest basketball you're going to see played is going to be in the Southeastern Conference tournament. And it's going to come down to that portion on the bracket probably Saturday when you get to see Auburn and Ole Miss and Alabama and somebody and Florida and somebody and then Tennessee and some. And then I'm venturing to say that those teams move on and We'll see all of them play. Saturday and Sunday will shape up to be great basketball, in my opinion, regardless of who plays in those games. But I think you're right. I think Auburn has the best path. If I'm to say, hey, who's your betting favorite? It's Auburn. And that's not orange and blue glasses talking. That's just, you just look at the bracket right away and you go, whew, we don't have to play Florida. And whew, we don't have to play Alabama again in less than a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unless of course they make the championship game. I also, and I've said this before, like playing Tennessee less than 20, like it'd be like 21 hours after they play Texas A&M, probably, I think is huge. I think it's a super big deal because those two teams are going to play physical. They're going to beat the crap out of each other, and it's going to be the most unwatchable brand of basketball ever.
I will say some of your people that have advantages are Tennessee, Auburn, and Florida, even over Alabama, because of all the neutral site games that got played at the beginning of the season, in my opinion. Okay. I think that is a big difference. That was one of Alabama's knocks at the first of the season, is the lack of talent that they were facing on neutral sites when they played. Whereas Florida and Tennessee and Auburn, they strapped it up and played against some pretty tough competition at the beginning of the year and did so on neutral sites. Hence Auburn getting those quad one wins that put them where they are right now.
Yeah, I mean, Maui comes to mind. Of course, you know, the game with Ohio State, the game against Purdue.
Houston. In Houston.
Yeah, neutral site.
Who is now ranked above Auburn in the top 25, which is just wild to me.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's good. Good. They seem to be peaking for sure. They'll be a popular tournament championship pick when everybody fills out their brackets next week. Got a feeling.
It's going to be. I like Auburn's path, but I think this could be a tournament where anybody could come out on top. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think any of the top. I think 5 of the top 6 teams, I think, can win it. So I think Auburn, Florida, Bama, Tennessee. Then I'm going to skip the 5 seed. I don't think Texas A&M can win it. And I'll say Kentucky has a shot too.
Oh, wow. You see it? See, how bad am I? I keep forgetting about Kentucky. Boy, Blue Bloods are going to hate that I just said that. Oh, my goodness.
Well, the likelihood of Auburn playing Kentucky in this tournament is so slim. It's so slim.
See,
they've got to beat Georgia / Oklahoma. They'd have to beat Bama. They'd have to beat Florida. Like, that's just not happening.
And there's so many Kentucky people that chirp inside your chats and stuff, man, that when I just said forget about Kentucky, oh, that's gonna be on a board somewhere.
Kentucky fans are everywhere. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. All right. Is there pressure on Auburn? Like, does the SEC tournament matter? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. Your home should reflect your style. With Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or tackling a home project, Wayfair has everything you need in one place. And according to reports, Ben Taylor, your family just purchased something from Wayfair, yesterday? Days ago?
Should be arriving at some point, either today or tomorrow, according to my wife. Office chair, bought from Wayfair, and she's all excited about it. I have no idea what it looks like, but I know I'll be the one having to put it together. So that's what it's headed to the house, and it's all coming from Wayfair.
Yeah, Wayfair, obviously, whether she ordered on the app or on their website.
I just was told that it was arriving from Wayfair.
Okay. They've got a great app. They've got a great user-friendly app, which is, I think, is the only thing we've used. But, of course, you go to wayfair.com as well. Head over to wayfair.com to find something that's just your style today. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Ben Taylor joining me. So when you look at the pressure that seems to be on Auburn, there is a discussion being had that Auburn has just totally fallen off. And I don't think
that's not the case.
That's fair or correct or accurate. But I do think if this even matters, I do think it will quiet some of it going into the tournament, if that matters. If they beat Ole Miss or whoever they play game 1, and then especially if they beat Tennessee / Texas A&M and make it to the SEC tournament championship game. But unless they just totally like don't win a game, I think they've done enough at that point to lock down the number 1 overall seed.
I think they've done enough. I don't think there's, I wouldn't say pressure by any means. Maybe a morale booster. I think that could be what it used as.
Okay.
But
sure.
Pressure wise, I mean, look at that A&M loss. Denver's not in there. Chaney doesn't have a great game either offensively. He also doesn't have a great game offensively or rebound wise against Alabama. And Zach, the Alabama game, Auburn's a few buckets there at the end, free throws, Chad Baker staying in the game from winning that game. I mean, I'm still not so sure they shouldn't have won it at regulation. I wasn't real thrilled with the play call that got called. I thought Janai should have used that spin move then and gone to the bucket a little bit harder. Probably drew a foul. So, we're not having this discussion if Mark Sears, who has an awful game against Auburn, doesn't throw a teardrop in at the end. Then all of a sudden people pressure, they're falling off. We had injuries and on the road at A&M loss. And then honestly, Alabama fans are going to love that I'm saying this. That should have been a win against Alabama at home in Neville to cap off the season. So I don't think it's pressure. Now, morale booster. Yeah. If you go out and you put up 90, 95 and you get beat by Ole Miss, then let's stop with the offensive issues and let's figure out what defensively has gone wrong with this team as of late, which can be fixed before the NCAA tournament the following week. Because right now,
you're saying problems defensively. Is that what I just want to make sure I heard you.
Yeah.
And how much of that is just like, hey, Denver, chill and let's like make sure your ankle's better? Like, how much of it is that? I mean, how much of it is like Janai Broom? Like, clearly your shoulder's still bothering you. Like, let's ice it for a week. Let's do rehab for a week. Chad Baker-Mazara, like clearly grabbing his back often against Alabama. Like, is he fully healthy?
Covered in tape, by the way, too. That tape that he had.
So, I mean, I think mentally the break is good, but physically, like these guys are banged up. I don't think there's any debating that.
So getting back to your original question, pressure, no pressure, just a morale booster. I think that a win against Ole Miss and even a win Saturday against whoever will be, I think that's one of those things. Here's the thing. There's nothing to gain, Zach, by winning the tournament, except for saying we won both the regular season and the SEC tournament. The seeding's not going to change. Now, there's something to lose possibly if you go one and done, especially if Ole Miss beats Auburn by double digits at a neutral site, then that number 1 overall probably goes to the wayside and Duke takes over that number 1 overall seed, which I still don't like because I read a stat the other day in conference play. Auburn, 24% of Auburn's games came against ranked opponents in conference play. Do you know what the percentage was for Duke in their conference play, what their percentage was against ranked opponents during conference play?
The ACC did not have any ranked versus ranked opponents, did they?
0%. Zero. So the fact that they're still talking about, man, if they lose by a bucket against Ole Miss or against Arkansas, everyone, they're going to lose that number 1 seed is phenomenal to me that they're talking that.
Yeah, the criteria, I mean, the last 5 years, we all fallen in love with, what the analytics say and what, quad 1 and, really focusing on the net and all of that. And then this year, it seems to not be the case. But I think Auburn will be the number 1 overall seed. I agree. I think they could lose it, or I don't know if it's them losing it or Duke winning it if they win the ACC. But
I don't think it's either. I think it's them giving it to Duke. Yes. I think it is I think that is a historical Coach K gift to a program that is nationally seen in a more positive light than Auburn University is.
I mean, we see the same thing in football. You know, the established brands always get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not saying that shouldn't happen. It's just when you root for the team that is getting shafted because of it, it stinks. So you mentioned that, and I know this, and we're assuming. Like, if I had to guess right now, I would say Auburn still is the number 1 overall seed, regardless of what happens this weekend. That is still my guess. It's just you can see them trying to set it up to some extent. But
and see and this isn't me playing poor Auburn right here, but you mentioned established brands. Well, look at the history that Bruce has had over the last 10 years. When is Auburn going to be an established brand as far as basketball is concerned? Because
I think you got to win a natty.
This coach at Duke hasn't won a natty.
That's true, but Duke has.
Yeah, you're right. So I guess that is what's, because right now the established brands in the Southeastern Conference are Auburn, Alabama, and Florida.
Mm-hmm. And Florida's won one, obviously.
And I know Kentucky would love to be in that, but Kentucky is not the established. You wouldn't have run Coach Cal off if you were an established brand. Auburn's not running Bruce off. Alabama's not running Oates off. And nobody's running Todd off down in Florida right now. So they ran Cal off.
It's so interesting because they ran Cal off because he couldn't win tournament games. And I don't think, does Mark Pope have a tournament win? I don't think he does.
I mean, I don't know what he did at BYU, but I don't know that played in that.
They were so hyped up, and they were one of my favorite teams in the tournament last year. And then, I don't think they won one last year. I think they were one of the upsets. So
they got beat first round. Oh, that's bad.
I think so. So we'll see. It's gonna be fascinating to see how Kentucky responds if he only wins a game or doesn't win a game at all in the NCAA tournament. It'd be interesting. So, okay. All right. So, hopefully Auburn takes care of business this weekend and there's no stress on Selection Sunday. Ben Taylor, how can people check out everything that you've got going on?
Monday through Friday, 6A to 9A. I almost said 6A to 8A. That'd be great because it's a 2-hour show, but it's a 3-hour show.
Sure.
But we do sports just after 7 with Top Button Tuesday, Locked On Wednesday, Double D Mondays. What's Goings on Friday with Jacob Goins, voice of Auburn High, and also the voice of Locked On Hoosiers.
There it is. There it is.
So you guys come and join us. We'd love to see you. AUnetwork.com, newstalkwani.com, or you just download the Radio Alabama app. Yeah, please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuning in on audio, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Helps the show out a ton. Thank you in advance. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.